We've known for some time that there was an effort, a multi-pronged effort to potentially seize voting machines in the wake of the 2020 presidential election. That has been alluded to and updated along the way. What is new now this week is a greater understanding of how involved President Donald Trump was with this effort. It had previously been possible that this was something his aides in various aspects of government had been working on, but no, he was actually involved. And the New York Times describes this involvement in a bit flowery language, saying, 6 weeks after Election Day, with his hold on power slipping, President Donald J. Trump directed his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, to make a remarkable call. Mr. Trump wanted him to ask the Department of Homeland Security if it could legally take control of voting machines in key swing states. They have 3 different sources on that information. Giuliani did make that call. He called the department's acting deputy secretary, who said he lacked the authority to audit or impound the machines. After that, Mr. Trump pressed Giuliani to make that inquiry to have outside advisors wanted to have the Pentagon take control. They had outreach to the Department of Homeland Security. He had a meeting with Attorney General William Barr, who said that the Justice Department also couldn't seize it. At the same time, he was trying to persuade state lawmakers in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania to have local law enforcement do this. And we had known about some of these plots, but he apparently was actually directly involved in conversations about the DOJ, DHS, the Department of Defense, and state lawmakers all independently trying to seize control of voting machines. Now, thankfully, people did not play ball, those who would actually have to do this. It did not actually happen, but he was involved in it. Michael, thoughts?
My thought is that if this is true, then Donald Trump should be arrested. I mean, I think that we're getting into the territory where he was doing extra legal, trying to take extra legal measures to get a hold of the election and change the course of what everybody, I think, or not, I shouldn't say everybody because it's not true, but most people think was a legal election. And so to that end, I do think we're getting into the territory where Donald Trump broke the law or tried to break the law. And even Giuliani at some point wouldn't go to the military to try and get that done. And I say even Giuliani because he seemed to have been willing to do anything at a certain point. So I think this extra legal stuff that Trump did is worthy of arrest, frankly, if it's true. And these are things that we will soon learn.
And so I'm curious. So I assume you're saying that some of what we had previously learned doesn't seem to have risen to that level or have the evidence for it. In, for instance, the alternate electors, the pressure on the vice president, the call to Raffensperger to find votes. Those sorts of things are either not proven to the same extent or aren't as clearly illegal.
Well, if you go through them one by one, I think the call to Raffensperger maybe as well. I mean, there may be multiple counts here, right? I mean, I'm just saying this is another one of those where he broke the law. I mean, I think to pressure the vice president. I don't know that, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't know that is against the law. I think that it would have been against the law had the vice president succumbed to that, perhaps, or definitely. But as far as talking about what the pressure he tried to exert on the Secretary of State in Georgia, what we've now learned he tried to do with voting machines through the Department of Homeland Security. To their credit, they didn't allow it to happen. I think that this is flirting with breaking the law if it isn't outright blatantly breaking the law. And again, that's for other people to decide. But certainly, this adds more to the cumulative and growing case against Donald Trump.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that case has been pretty plump for a long time. I feel.
Oh, it has
actually happened.
I'm not breaking news here by saying that. I mean, we've thought this for a while. I mean, we've thought at different times, sitting in the Oval Office with James Comey. I mean, there's so many different times where it seems and that got him. He was impeached twice, which happens to presidents. But he's a former president now. We're learning some of these things. Did he say? Will he say? And will his lawyers say he had executive privilege? Perhaps, but I think that it goes too far. It's what caused Nixon to resign because he knew that as well.
Yeah, and by us covering this and talking about it, yeah, I'll speak for myself. Feel free to disagree. Again, doesn't mean that we have any reasonable expectation that anything will be done, in part because so much has been revealed and nothing has been done. But I feel like in the absence of a political system where there are actually legal consequences for a legal act, we can't really seem to have that. We should at least still acknowledge the crimes. We can move on afterward or whatever, but I feel like we should at least point out what we think is being done.
Yeah, I'm +1 to that with you, but I also think that you're seeing a fraying support system for the former president, and I think because of that, it's not happening with in a deluge of people breaking with him, but people are sort of Republicans sticking their feet in the water to test whether or not distancing themselves from the president's okay, and it's proven to be a little more safe than people had thought. So if that continues to be contagious, then you may see the former president, in bigger trouble.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.